What happened in practice?
For the Japanese Grand Prix.
They went slow into 130R. Japanese Grand Prix, Friday. Let's talk about it. We've had some news. We've had some things going on in the world of Formula One in the lead up to this, and also some things to discuss now that we've seen the cars around the legendary Suzuka circuit. Tommy, you have literally just got back from holiday. You don't look tired at all. Last time it was me that was in trouble. I'm still a little bit in trouble, but I'm getting there. It's you now in trouble, Tommy, but with jet lag this time. So
it's not even jet lag.
It's just
no. I was going to say jet lag makes me sound like
Portugal.
a right diva, like literally the
was it
same
an hour?
time
was it the
zone.
same? Oh.
Yeah.
Okay,
No, it's just that classic like being on an airplane with aircon and everyone coughing and good times. But we'll make it through.
All right, stay away from me. Don't transmit it through the microphone, please. That'd be good. Right now, so some things to talk about. And look, first and foremost, before we get into it, let's absorb and enjoy every single second of content that we bring out and talk about with Formula One. And try not to complain too much because F1's going away for a month. There is no F1 in April, which makes me feel very upset. But of course, there are reasons for that make absolute sense as to why we've not got 2 races in April. So yeah, let's just try and enjoy Japan as much as we can before we head into almost the length of the off season, it feels like, in April. So the first thing to talk about, because we mentioned, didn't we, previously coming into Suzuka, that there might be some adjustments, some changes to do with the battery, the wonderful thing we love to talk about.
Let's not complain about it, and then immediately 3 seconds later we're talking about battery and super clipping. At
least I said, let's try not to, and that's now out the window after 10 seconds. But the FIA, they've heard, they've listened to the F1 teams and perhaps the fans, and made a small adjustment to the maximum energy recharge from 9 megajoules to 8 megajoules for qualifying, essentially taking away a slight bit of the reliance of the battery, which in turn is supposed to give slightly higher speeds towards the end of the straights. We've seen Friday running.
Yeah.
And, So what was 9 megajoules going to be like? That's what I'm going to ask.
Yeah, my thoughts exactly. It's obviously, this was one of the worst circuits for it. We're early in the season as well, where they're still trying to work everything out. So they've tried to do something to kind of save qualifying, because that's been the big thing that we're all kind of upset about. I feel like at the start of the season, it's going to be very similar in the fact that we get, after qualifying, we go, oh, that was rubbish and annoying. They're super clipping, they're easing off. It doesn't feel like qualifying. And then we have these brilliant races. And that's everything that's happened so far. And I've tried to kind of rectify that with this whole, not making them harvest as much. But we have still seen an insane amount of super clipping. I mean, 130R is one of the best corners in Formula One, the whole calendar. And my word, it is literally like you've run out of petrol or something, and you're just slowly losing speed into the chicane. And I know it's only practice, but I saw an onboard with Max, and that was about 50 kph he lost from essentially the top speed. And we're used to them flying through 130R, flat out. Charles Leclerc adjusting his mirror with one hand, famously, going around that corner, and Alonso's amazing pass on Schumacher and all those amazing moments through 130R. But yeah, it's a shame, isn't it?
It's a big shame. Downshifting, of course, as well, which is always lovely to hear. Try not to complain. So they made the changes-ish. A tiny change, a minuscule change, which has not, for me, I've not seen anything visibly different to the last 2 races that we've seen. If anything, it's even worse because 130R is such an iconic corner, and it is. I know it was easy before, like last year. Of course, they would take it flat, a little bit of a turn of the wheel, easy stuff. Now it feels like you could get out and walk around it at exactly the same speed. And that's, of course, what they're trying to help with. But surely everybody knew that this is more trying to save their blushes as much as possible, rather than this is a fix, because it's not going to be a fix until something much more drastic happens. So, look, Saturday is a problem. We know that. Sunday has been entertaining, and I hope that it will continue to be that way. So yes, let's see. Let's see how the rest of the weekend goes. Because if we have great Sundays, then perhaps that is the trade-off that we're not used to giving, but the trade-off that we have to accept, at least for this year, whilst they figure it out. Okay, let's get into free practice 1, where the top 3 were George Russell, Kimi Antonelli, and Lando Norris. A uneventful session. Not much to go off apart from randomly Sergio Perez and Alex Albon having a crash. If you actually watch that, you would be forgiven for thinking that was Sunday race day, because Alex Albon just dives down the inside into the last chicane. Perez just does not see him. That right mirror has not been used heading into that last chicane, because he just turns in and there was a big impact. Albon, of course, also involved in an off at Degner 2 and going into the gravel trap, but fortunately for him, managing to get out. But I think apart from that, of course, Jack Crawford was in the Aston Martin replacing Fernando Alonso. I'm sure Alonso was absolutely devastated to not be in that Aston Martin before the spring break, as they're calling it. And we can now officially crown another daddy of the podcast, Daddy Vowles. But now, I'm sure there are many other daddies that we don't call daddy, but Daddy Alonso.
I've always called Alonso Daddy Alonso anyway.
Yeah,
so
that's different. That's a different story.
Yeah, Fernando, I'm surprised he even wants to get back in that car. I saw a clip, actually, of the whole vibrations and stuff, and it seems like the car, you can even see it on the onboard camera, how much it's vibrating, and it looked like it's even doing it just being idle on the grid, waiting to do the start. So, look, if I was Fernando Alonso, I'd probably... He's a racer, and this is why he's a multiple champion and a racing driver, but why you'd want to get back in that car, I don't know. But yeah, he's congratulations, Fernando, but not congratulations on having to drive the Aston Martin for the rest of the weekend, because still looks absolutely horrendous car to drive. And yeah, it probably hurts even more that, it's at Honda's home track. And I saw Aston Martin for seemingly the first time, it feels like, post like a picture where they're kind of sat with a Honda engineer and they're kind of like, we're in this together, we can do this, because it's maybe been a bit slanderous so far. Yeah. And there's been comparisons, hasn't there, to the McLaren Honda days and how they need to be careful to not blow the relationship up within the first 2 races, because they can turn it around. We saw that, what they did with Red Bull.
Exactly, but it's just how much time is that going to take, and how old will Fernando Alonso be when that is all sorted?
When he's racing his kid.
Imagine. Now that would be something. Let's head to free practice 2, the more representative session, and it's Oscar Piastri fastest ahead of Kimi Antonelli and George Russell. So once again, 2 Mercedes and a McLaren. Now, the big question from P1 Patreon member Tony Soprano: are McLaren back? What a Friday in terms of pace. They still have their gremlins. Lando had some problems today, but in terms of the pace, it feels as though they've finally been given the final page of the instruction booklet that says how to actually turn it on, because they look on par with Mercedes around 1 lap. They really do, across FP1 and FP2. Piastri, of course, being fastest in the second session. It's really exciting. It's awesome to see that McLaren have found something around here. Now, it's not doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be consistent throughout the season now, but it's a huge step forward for McLaren. And you couldn't even... I don't think you could argue, at least obviously it's only Friday running, but I don't think you could argue that Mercedes have fallen back, because then you look at the soft tyre runs in particular in FP2 from Ferrari to Mercedes, and the gap still seems massive. I will say that for Ferrari, they looked much better on the mediums when they were doing flying laps, but as soon as they put on the softs, they couldn't take that step that Oscar managed to do, and the Mercedes, and of course Lando was playing a little bit of catch up. So yeah, for me right now, McLaren are right in the hunt. Depending on the steps they take between now and tomorrow, to challenge not just for pole, but perhaps even be on the podium and race wins.
A good surprise, you might say, McLaren.
Oh no, have you... Mate, I was thinking about the predictions and I was regretting I was like, Matt, it's free practice too. Get over yourself. But I was like, oh my God. And I forgot about your good surprise as well. I've good surprise Red Bull. They look shocking. We'll talk about them in a bit.
Yeah.
I've gone for a Hamilton win and he's gone, I don't have any confidence in the car. I'm like, why can't concussion Matt from a few days ago have cooked? But instead, I think I might be well on for 0 points and you're on for about 8.
Yeah, McLaren look very nice indeed, particularly, as you mentioned, on the one lap pace. And that's going to be important for them because obviously we've seen them a bit further down the order at the start. But look, McLaren, I kind of said before in China, but then they ended up having a double DNS, so didn't back it up. But in theory, if Mercedes have this big engine performance, and that's where they're finding a lot of their time, McLaren have that same engine, and we've joked about the instruction manual and how they just need to unlock it. If this is 3 races in and they can, we don't know yet, maybe Mercedes just turn the wick up in main qualifying and they're miles ahead. But McLaren have a great chance to challenge, and I think by the end of the season, I wouldn't be surprised if they are a lot closer, maybe even challenging Mercedes for victories. The problem for McLaren is they've had such horrendous reliability that they're already 80 points behind in the championship. Obviously, Oscar, great to see him in first place. Just want to see him start a Grand Prix, and I'm sure a lot of other Australian people are watching, wanting to just see him actually race for a change, because their reliability has been absolutely shocking. But it shows there's pace in the car.
Certainly does. A good Friday for Oscar in particular. Question from P1 Patreon member Kieran Mega. Should Ferrari be concerned by McLaren's pace today?
I think so, because I don't know what they should be more concerned about, the gap to Mercedes that maybe you'd hope would be a bit closer at a track like this. Obviously, we saw in China that Mercedes were gaining so much time on the straights. And Japan doesn't have a huge amount of straights, but it's obviously very quick corners. And it doesn't seem like Ferrari have that same confidence, particularly on the soft tyres. Hamilton, who's been very vocal in talking about how much he loves these cars now, and they're amazing, and he's having the best time ever, and it feels like he's having the best racing, and he's really enjoying it. And now, saying that he's got very little grip, something doesn't feel quite right with Ferrari. And the problem for Ferrari is their kind of secret weapon has been these starts and how they can get up into first. It's not even like a case of getting into turn 1 first, because they've got, the way they can fire up their turbo with their smaller turbo quicker, they can get into the lead, and we've seen that a lot. But if they're starting 5th and 6th, it's going to be a lot harder than when they were 3rd. So, obviously, to state the obvious.
Another prediction in the bag for Tommy of Ferrari not leading lap 1. I'm just, we're snowballing. Maybe let's just, you win the first 3 races, let's reset and then do the other 19. Thoughts?
Okay.
All right, cool.
I did joke that I might have to get my 3-year-old daughter Grace to do the next lot of predictions, and
for the next foreseeable.
Maybe it might have to be if I get a clean sweep.
So this will be tied in quite nicely with the question. So Ferrari being concerned by McLaren, absolutely. Now, one slight saving grace is that we know that the chassis side of the Ferrari is very, very good. And a lot of talk already coming into this weekend and for the first, I guess, cutoff is around the engine regs and the catch-up that teams can, or engine manufacturers can play. They play their little Uno, I need help card. And essentially, I think it's after 6 races.
How many golden mushrooms will Aston Martin get?
A lot. But basically how it works on a sort of basic level is that if you're 2% behind the best engine, you can unlock a little bit more of the cost cap and you can develop and improve your engine. 4% even more so. And the murmurs are that Ferrari believe, obviously they're going to believe, and I firmly believe as well, that they are at least 2% behind the best engine. That's where they're losing their performance. So from a present standpoint, yes, concerned, and I think Ferrari could very easily slip into the third fastest team. But there are glimmers of hope that with these new regs that teams can catch up and they can bring updates to their engine to be able to close that gap to, which I think is astronomical for the Mercedes. And it's interesting. I don't know the exact way that they test this, but I also am sat here going like, Mercedes have a genuine reason to not show their full performance with their car
I've heard
with their engine, because the more performance they show, the more the teams can catch up. Now, again, there must be a way in which the FIA can test the engine to its full limits regardless. But I'm sure there are very, very clever ways in which that can't happen.
I did see that about, that's a very big loophole that Mercedes could essentially jump through, where they could peg back their performance to look like the teams are a lot closer. Maybe let Ferrari in the lead at the start, for example, and then just be like, see you later, we're off. And yeah, win the race, and then say, well, look, we're not that far clear. And it's something that if you weren't watching in 2014, there's this kind of famous theory, and probably a very real one, that Mercedes half the time were never using their full engine potential, because one race where Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg got to race on a safety car restart, they ended up, I think, clearing the entire field by about 7 or 8 seconds in a couple of laps, which, if that is the case again, and Mercedes are like pegging themselves back, of course, that they're playing that game of the performance and making it look like, oh, we're not that far ahead, so the other teams don't need it. And then as soon as that is locked in, they can be like, cool. And because I guess you want to, if these are the rules to make people catch up, you want to win with the smallest margin possible to stop teams catching up.
And that's the same year where Williams turned up the wick a little bit too much on their Mercedes engine and got pole in Austria. That's that same year, isn't it? But then, we say that, but it's not based on race time. It's not based on that. It'll be done in the dynos and everything else. And I'm sure there are ways in which to get the maximum performance out of an engine. But I also wouldn't be surprised if there are little things that can make sure that they don't go as extreme in those tests. But that's just purely speculation and me thinking. And coping, I guess, for Ferrari's sake, if they don't win any races this year. Next question, P1 Patreon member Ilaria. Are Red Bull in serious trouble given their performance so far? Yes, they're in massive, massive trouble. It's right now in Formula One. There are 3 top teams, and then there's the midfield. Like, Red Bull are a midfield. Like, we've joked about this before. We've joked about, well, if Max wasn't in Red Bull, there'd be a midfield car. Well, Max is in Red Bull, and it is still a midfield car. I think Hadjar's still doing a reasonable job in comparison when you look at the times between himself and Max. But that doesn't matter when they're fighting the Hasses, Williams, Albon. I know he had a very scruffy Friday with a few different incidents, but he's up in 8th. And so there's progress being made by other teams. And Red Bull, who I thought, bringing upgrades to this weekend, should be able to take a step forward, because the idea and the understanding is that it's not the engine, it's the chassis. That's the problem with the car, is that the drivers don't have any confidence. I think Max even said in practice today that he's understeering so much, so he's just going to box, not even going to go for another flying lap. So the car is fundamentally wrong from an aero side of things, but seemingly good from an engine side, which is the opposite for a lot of other teams.
Yeah, the opposite to what we thought would happen. And they struggled so much in the corners in China. They're obviously absolutely woeful, and they're way off the pace seemingly here again. We saw take it with a pinch of salt, but we saw someone in China, I think a VIP, take some photos where the cars were getting weighed. And we saw the likes of, I think they saw 3 cars get weighed. They were all very similar. And then the Red Bull was, I think, like 20 kilos heavier than everything else, which 20 kilos heavier when you're trying to go around the S's at Suzuka is going to, feel a lot. And they're really struggling here again, despite the upgrades. The theory was there that maybe China was just an outlier because Australia had you put it P3, you think, wow, this is a great base for Red Bull. Actually very impressive to be if they were indeed, second best in qualifying, because we thought their engine was going to be quite poor, and that's why they'd be slower. But yeah, they're well in that midfield. We've seen the likes of, you're looking where Max is, and he's among not just the V carbs, which of course have the same engine as him, but Williams and Audi seem to have stepped up a little bit as well, with Hülkenberg in 7th and Albon in 8th. So yeah, it's going to be struggle town for Max Verstappen on this weekend, and probably for the foreseeable future. Fun times.
There you go. All right, pretty much done and dusted. Would you say, Tommy? Are we?
Just looking up and down the order.
Lindblad having more problems once again. Thankfully for him, it's not a sprint weekend, so at least he has some more time to be able to dial into Suzuka, because of course back in China he only had literally a handful, if that, of laps before he had to go into competitive sessions. So I'm hoping for Lindblad's sake he's not plagued with issues the entire year, because he's impressed so far.
Yeah, and Audi as well, another one to mention, that continuing their game of only one car seems to be reliable any given day or session, because Bortoleto had a bit of a shocker, only managed to get out the garage right near the end to put in some laps. And yeah, reliability is still seeming to be quite an issue for a lot of drivers.
I swear to God, if 22 cars start the race as well, predictions championship's over.
Yeah, so Gasly's looking quite floppy in 14th as well.
That's a very non-flop. I will be very strict. Okay, that is it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you very soon. Tomorrow, in fact, of course, for all of our watch-alongs, as always, make sure to come and join us on YouTube, Twitch, and Dream 11, and we will see you then. Looking forward to it. Adios. Goodbye. Sweet dreams. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye.